I will find it and email all of you instructions.
Can you do that like right now?
Yes. Just keep playing with your mouse pad.
Yeah.
Be really active for the next like 3 minutes, and then you'll have it in here.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome everyone here to the July 2nd, 2024 regular meeting for the Lansing Charter Commission. Would the Deputy Clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Adam Simon,
Present.
Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Bauer,
Present.
Commissioner Boyd, Commissioner Dowd, here. Commissioner Jeffries,
Here.
Commissioner Lopez, Commissioner Kawi,
Present.
and Commissioner Washington.
Here.
All members are present. There is a quorum. We will move on to adopting the agenda.
A motion would be in order to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Support. It's been moved by Commissioner Washington, supported by Commissioner Cowie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It is adopted.
Okay, moving on to public comment. We'll start out with Randy Dykes.
Hi, I'm Randy Dykes. I live at 418 North Sycamore in Lansing. It's in the 4th Ward. And I'm here tonight because at your last meeting, you specifically asked for feedback about the time allotment for public comment. At that time, you were thinking possibly about 5 minutes or 3 minutes, shorter time at the end. I want to say that personally, I don't think it matters all that much. I've offered public comment at City Council, various boards and commissions on numerous occasions. And I really can't recall a time where it seemed to have much impact or make much of a difference. Your commission may be different. I'll reserve judgment on that. However, public comment is the way it's structured is a one-way communication mechanism. And it is, in my opinion, much more important that you hold extended conversations with a wide range of Lansing residents. You discussed a list at your June 4th meeting, included many officials, organizations that already are powerful voices in the city. I don't think they should be ignored. Doing so may lead them into opposition to the city charter when it comes to election time, which may result in defeat no matter what it is that you propose. However, it's just as crucial, if not more so, that you actively seek out opinions from those who do not already have such powerful voices. Julie Vandenboom offered an extensive list at your last meeting. It's a good place to start. I am president of the board of one of those organizations that she mentioned, Capitoria Friends of the Environment, CAFE. And I can tell you, I would consider it a huge injustice if you heard only from BWL or other city officials. After observing the dysfunction on the BWL board for the past 7 years or so, I can tell you that structural change at the board level is needed. In order to fully explain why this is so and what options might be considered, it's incumbent on you to spend some time not only hearing from me and from CAFE, but also questioning us, seeking to understand why it is that we feel so strongly that change is necessary. And that change is necessary if Lansing is to be a leader in the just transition to renewable energy and a sustainable community. You simply won't get that through a 3 or 5 minute presentation. I fully understand you don't have a lot of time. You were only given 90 meetings by City Council. And you have 90 meetings to do a huge task. But I so strongly urge you to find a way to fully engage with the community and not think and not believe that you're actually done community engagement by having slightly longer public comment periods. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Norma Bauer.
Hi, I'm Norma Bauer, and I thank you for serving this very important and difficult work. You have a lot of work ahead of you. And I strongly agree with Mr. Dykes because currently the money that I pay the city-owned utility is partly going not to water, not to electric, but to nonprofits. If I want to donate to a nonprofit, then I pay the nonprofit. If I want water and light, that's all I want. I can't understand how the Utilities Commission let that go by. And anyway, your job, the reason you were elected is because the voters want a city charter review. And the longer you put that off, the less chance you'll have it done by September of '25. That's the timeline you've got. So obviously, you're employees of the city of Lansing under our strong mayor system. And the strong mayor says that he respects the Michigan League for Public Policy. And so do I. And the Michigan League for Public Policy likes what the National Civic League says. And what the National Civic League recommends is not a strong mayor form of government. They recommend a model city charter, and all of them that they've been reviewing for 9 years or something like that, all of them recommend one form or another of city manager. So there's going to be some people who don't like that. They like getting big grants from the strong mayor. They like the no-bid contracts. I don't. I'm a citizen, I'm a taxpayer, and I just want it to be a competitive thing, people who hire local people. And but I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people, but they mainly said the voters wanted a change. So even if you have people saying, don't do that, that would be disastrous. We like the mayor and we like everything that's going on. Well, if the voters liked everything that's going on, they wouldn't have hired you to review the city charter. So I recommend that you get started on that anytime now. Anytime now. Don't let yourself be swayed about how you have to hire a lawyer and you have to do this and you have to do that. No, you don't. You are an independent commission. As I understand it, I'm no attorney. But please get started. It's a big, long thing, and you need to understand some basics. How many wards are we going to have? Are we going to have a balanced government? The lawmakers, elected representatives, I hope. Not a strong mayor, not a politician. We need to get politics out of government. They're not the same. They feel like it, but it's not the same. Politicians know how to get votes and know how to get money. And they know how to give it to their pals. Well, I like it to go to the best one, the most qualified one. And I think you do too. So follow your conscience, follow your heart. Thank you, and keep on going.
Thank you. Next is Valentina Hoskins.
Good evening. I'm Valentina Hoskins. I'm here today because the two properties on the side of me, they have overgrown bushes. They're like extremely large. And when I call to report about it, I don't get a resolution. I've been in the home, September it'll be 5 years, and I can't even go into my backyard where my fence is on the opposite side of the property. The bushes, they're protruding through the fence. And when I trim them down, they come right back. When I complain about it, nothing happens. So I sent photos to you guys. So I live at 1716 Herbert Street. So the main property that I'm here about is 1712. The tenants that used to live there, they used to throw their trash outside. I used to get rodents. I was having problems with raccoons, their brush, their trees, their grass. Their grass is up to my knees right now. And the only time that the city comes and cuts it is if I call and complain. And a few weeks ago when we had all of that rain, they gave me a ticket because my grass was long. But the next door neighbor, their grass has been long for the last 4 years. And nobody comes and cuts it unless I'm complaining about it. I can't even go into my backyard because of the way their bushes and brush comes all over into my yard. On the other side, 1716, the bushes are so large, they protrude onto my vehicle when I pull into the driveway. I can't even pull into my driveway. And when I ask them to, cut them down, don't get a response. And I think that's just totally unfair to me because I make sure that my bushes are trimmed, my grass is maintained, I don't have trash in my yard, and I'm in the middle of these two people that are horrible. One side, these people were throwing garbage outside. The other side, the lady, she just does whatever. And so the property at 1712, the tenants, they moved out probably like 8 months ago. But the entire time I was there, like I said, I'll be there 5 years in September. It's been an ongoing thing. No one takes care of their brush and their bushes. They're like really massive. If you look at the photos, you would be like, that's just not fair. That's not fair to me to be able to come outside and I can't even enjoy my own backyard. And when I complain about it, they tell me, well, it's not obstructing the view of the street, but it's obstructing the view of me. And if my bushes were that large, you would be wanting me to cut mine. And I know doggone well, if that was someone else, they would not allow that to be in their neighborhood.
Ms. Hoskins, before you go, the Lansing Charter Commission has no authority to deal with the issues that you just raised, but what we can do and will do is we're going to refer this issue over to City Council and to the mayor's office. We'll have our staff reach out to them tomorrow, make them aware of it, and see what we can get done.
Well, I appreciate that because I called the mayor also. I was calling him every single day for like 6 months till his secretary stopped answering the phone.
Okay, we'll get it to them. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, next we have Frederick McLaughlin.
Okay, my name is Frederick McLaughlin. I live at 1407 West Holmes Road here in Lansing. And I wanted to expand a little bit on something I mentioned last time you folks met, and it has to do with economic development. I'm not a fan of the city engaging in economic development, and I'll tell you what I mean by that because I think it needs some explanation. The city does have a role to manage economic development, but what I'm talking about is I'm not a fan of seeing the city cultivate economic development. In other words, go out and seek it. If someone wants to develop something and they bring it to the city, that's one thing. But as far as the city going out and seeking people to develop here, there, or wherever, that's what I'm talking about in terms of the role of the city, and somehow I'd like to see that reflected in the charter, that distinction. Also, I have concern about the growth of the economy. The challenge with growth is that it runs up against the city's sustainability goals. Basically, what we have to do is cultivate the notion of enough. So, and this is reflected in the form-based zoning ordinance. It was reflected in a previous ordinance, zoning ordinance as well. And so I think both of those need to be revisited. The zoning ordinance, the present one, the form-based one, it's an old concept. I thought it had disappeared long ago. It's a pretty timid document. It's a timid approach. It basically is a kind of, I try not to be too harsh here, but it's a kind of dictatorial culturalism. It basically wants the city to look the same so that investors will feel comfortable that everything is going to be fit in nicely as it's seen, but it results in a rather flat-looking streetscape. And so this is something that needs to be addressed, I think, at this level, which is the charter level, so that we don't end up with a document that's that dictatorial. The conventional zoning that we had before easily cultivated mixed uses. It cultivated most of the concerns that the form-based ordinance purports to address. but I'm not sure that that people took it seriously enough to actually engage with the conventional zoning that we had before and actually use it as a tool, make use of it. They just kind of let things go. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Don Dean.
I'm Don Dean. I live on the north side of Lansing, north and east side of Lansing. I watched last week's meeting. There was 88 views before me, and two things I think that people should be given a little bit more time, and as Ryan mentioned, a little bit of time after the meeting, just like the city council meetings, if they want to stay. And then maybe a little bit more, because this work that you're doing is paramount. It basically will be the way that the city is run for the next how many ever years. It basically you guys are literally telling city council and the mayor how to govern this city. That's very, very important, and you need a lot of feedback from the citizens, not just from businesses or economic partners, but from the citizens, because we're the taxpayers, and without taxpayers, you have nothing. And also, Commissioner Boyd, last week when I heard you say that I probably won't be at any of the meetings, and as a communication person, you have to know that means I don't care about your neighborhood. I understand you have a memorial for your husband. However, that's one day. That's one day, and there's 4 wards. 4 wards that need your input from them rather than making them come down here, because there's very limited parking down here. Okay, there's a lot of community. There's a community center in each one of the wards, and I would recommend that you go to a meeting at all those wards, so that people can come out and talk to you, and you can get to know us. Because sitting on the 10th floor of City Hall twice a week for an hour and a half isn't going to get this job done. It just isn't. And we, like I said, this for Lansing, this is paramount. This is like a constitutional Congress. Okay, it's critically important, and we need you to hear our feedback, whether it's 9 wards or a strong mayor or city manager. There's no way you're going to hear a fraction of the people just being here. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I have no more blue sheets for public comment. Is there anyone else who would like to speak before we move on? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes.
Motion be in order to approve the minutes. Commissioner Bauer moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Anderson seconds it. Are there any changes or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, they are approved.
All right, we're now on to officer reports, starting with the chair.
I have no report tonight. Yeah,
Vice Chair.
Well, that just gives me a lot more time. Good evening, fellow commissioners and citizens of Lansing. I'd like to take a moment to reference a charter revision strategy published in the Handbook for Charter Commissioners that was developed by the Michigan Association of Municipal Attorneys in cooperation with the staff of the Michigan Municipal League and many individuals who have been active in charter revision work throughout the years. Mr. Daniel Matson, who at the time was the DeWitt City Attorney and Charter Consultant, stated the following strategy. The Charter Commission must present to the public a unified approach and avoid divisions caused by single or limited issue positions, which tend to discourage voters and lead to defeat of the product of countless hours of study, debate, and drafting. It is also well to have one person draft all segments of the document to preserve continuity of style and form. Until the Commission approves a final version, each draft should be regarded as tentative to allow the entire work product to evolve into a cohesive whole. Now, that really resonated with me because I've worked on many boards and commissions and been in organizations where some members tend to be disruptors and others are disruptive. Disruptors shake things up so they can open people's minds and change and be consensus builders, while disruptive aggravate others and activate them to become defensive. They close people off. And that goes for the commissioners and the public, our engagement with the public. The key difference between the two is collaboration. In the best interest of the citizens of Lansing, I hope that we as the commission charged with the most important work of the city for the next 2.5 years choose to be disruptors and not disruptive. Thank you.
Thank you. This brings us to the clerk's report, which is once again fairly short. Emery's been working hard for you guys. The packet has been given the most up-to-date information, including written public comment up to noon as of today. There are still a few scheduling logistics to work out with Ward 1's community meeting, so the information in the packet is the most up-to-date information that we have at this time. Just a small budget update. As of 6/30, or June 30th, we have gone through about $94,308.09. And the last thing I wanted to say was that Emory has also been putting your bios on the website. I know it's been kind of a problem going on for the day, so they might be up right now or they might not show right now, but this should certainly be worked out throughout this week. That is my report. With that, I would move on to unfinished business, postcard.
Okay, we're on the community meeting plan under unfinished business. This is just an update. This does not require any action tonight. I've got, we're going to start there and then come back. Yeah. So with the community meeting plan, as you know, at our last meeting, we approved the plan. It was Plan A. And basically it called for reaching out to members, groups in each ward, establishing a meeting. 3 of the meetings would be during the week, and 1 meeting would be on a Saturday. The update is we've got dates and times and places set for Ward 3. It's going to be the Churchill Downs meeting on Tuesday, August 20th at the Elfrida Schmidt Southside Community Center, starting at 6:30. We've got one in Ward 4 in place. This will be hosted by the West Side Neighborhood Association on Wednesday, August 28th at the Letts Community Center, also at 6:30. Just so you know, I'm sure you've looked at the calendar, that meeting is the day after our 27th commission meeting, so just an FYI for you. As the deputy clerk pointed out, Ward 1, still trying to organize a meeting with the East Side Neighborhood Organization. There's an effort to locate a place where we can meet. That seems to be what's stalling things. I suspect it would probably be maybe moved into September at this point. And finally, in Ward 2, there was not really an association that's available to work with. We're working with the Sycamore Park Neighborhood Watch, and we're trying to get a meeting set for a Saturday. It would be in September. They asked that we don't set it on the 14th or the 15th. So as soon as we get Ward 1 and 2 worked out, you'll be notified so you could get it on the calendar, and then that will take care of our outreach at this moment. So that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? Commissioner Bauer.
So the 2 that we've referenced in August are set?
Everything's
So we
set.
can put those on our calendars and?
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? Okay, moving on to the postcard, item B under unfinished business. We have 3 items there. The first one, I think what we have to do, I thought this was tabled, so we need a motion to take the postcard off the table.
I move to take the postcard off the table.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Quawi seconds it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we have the postcard. This is, everybody has seen this. It's in your packet. The vice chair has submitted some additional language that she would like to consider that I would believe would be on the front of the postcard. I would turn it over to Vice Chair Simons at this time to.
Thank you, Chair Jeffries, for the public's information. The current postcard says the Lansing Charter Commission is reviewing our city's charter, the document that outlines how our local government works, and we want to hear from you. I thought it was very important to really educate the public about what the charter actually does. I proposed language as follows. The Lansing City Charter is the founding document that outlines the structure and operations of the city of Lansing, establishing the framework for its government, including the powers of the city, structure of government, the election process, rights and responsibilities of citizens, fiscal management, and the amendment process.
Do you have a motion to?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt that language on the postcard.
Okay. So you want to amend the postcard, take out the current language and substitute this language in? Is that
I
correct?
think I wanted to include it with.
I wanted to
the heading.
include it
Okay.
with the current
Yes.
Okay.
adoption of that.
All right.
So I think the language on the postcard is fine, but I think we should adopt that
Okay. With that in mind, was there a second?
language.
A second.
Commissioner Bauer? Seconded it. Is there any conversation, any questions, comments? Commissioner? Go ahead.
Okay, I seen you point at me, sorry. But to me, I think it would have flown nice if it said like the Lansing Charter Commission is reviewing our city's charter, the document that outlines how our local government works. Insert the language from Lori, and then we want to hear from you. Like that way specifically. Oh,
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify.
Friendly amendment?
Yeah,
That's fine with me.
yeah.
Commissioner Boyd? No, I'm fine. You're fine. Anybody else have any questions or comments? On the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It is adopted, and those changes will be made.
May I make a recommendation for the document where it says, it's a very nice document put together, but it says, talks about attend a meeting or listen to a session, provide public comment, submit a comment submission form. Shouldn't we have instructions like email the commission and the Charter Commission's email on there? Make it as easy as possible and accessible for people to see so they don't have to search for documents, because we can't assume that everyone is going to know to go to the website or how to even get to the website.
Commissioner Dow?
And if I could, really, the way to do that now is a QR code on the card would make sense, lead them right to the website, right to how they can communicate to us. I think there's some power in that where folks can just write from their mobile device. The email is important, I believe.
I
but-
agree with that too, but I'm just trying to be respectful of some of our older
Sure.
citizens that don't have access or know how to access a QR code, like myself on most occasions. So.
I thought at our last meeting, we had discussed adding those items to the
Yes.
website. And I thought that was approved, is that correct? Yes. Yeah, so we'll take care of that. Great. Any other comments? Commissioner Boyd?
Just, I have submitted online comments before to our Public Works Department. They have a form available on their website.
So I'm just saying that I think the Public Works Department has a process on its page that you can submit a comment online. I've done it, and so I think whatever they're doing, we should emulate that. Thank you.
Emery?
There is a draft public comment submission form in this section of your packet after the proposed language from Vice Chair Simon. It starts on page 20. If you want to look over that and approve that, the clerk staff can start disseminating that on your Charter Commission website. We're working on how to configure the results and present them to you in a way that would be timely and helpful.
Okay. Any other comment? Commissioner Lopez?
Yes, that's great to have a form, but I would like to assure the people that have already sent comments that they would not be put aside because it's not in the form. So that's another way that they can keep communicating, is through email and what have you.
We are, just as we did tonight, we are accepting all written communications, making them part of the packet, so therefore they're going to continue to be part of our record and part of the historical.
It was just to reassure the public.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions on this? Okay, the next item in the packet is an item of some information, but would also take some action. As you recall, at the prior meeting, we talked about what the cost would be of mailing out this postcard. Clerk Swope has done some more investigating and found that based on what we talked about in terms of sending a card to every household that was a registered voter, that price has gone up because somehow we don't qualify as a governmental organization. I'm not sure how that works, but so he did some work for us. He put together 3 alternatives. He said if we wanted to send it out as we originally discussed to every household that had a registered voter, the cost for that card would be about $18,500. If we want to send to active voters, these are voters that have been active in voting, that have not had any of the mail returned or their driver's license, they've changed their driver's license and they're not getting the mailing sent to them now, that would reduce the cost probably to about 43,000 cards, which would take it down to $16,500. And then finally, we could use the postal saturation for a total cost of $19,500. That would be, we would send out the card to every address by carrier route. That would hit businesses as well, and it would probably go outside the city of Lansing's boundaries. So his recommendation is that we do the active registration mailing, which would be, he wants us to round it up to around $17,000, and that would require a motion to approve that mailing and those costs. Is there a motion to do that?
I had a question prior to that motion. Oh,
Yeah,
well,
we need a
okay.
motion on the table.
I'll move it.
Okay, it's been moved by
Support.
Commissioner Boyd.
I support.
Commissioner Cowie supports it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my question was, is this price tag only for the initial mailing for the one postcard?
That's
Because
correct.
we had talked in our last meeting about doing multiple mailings.
This is just for this.
So this is just the initial first mailing of what we just voted on.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Commissioner Boyd.
Can you describe again what an active voter is, or who it is?
It's, the voter is, an active voter is that are voters who have not had mail returned, so they don't likely live at that address if the mail's being returned. Or somehow the clerk has information dealing with driver's license and whether or not they've changed their driver's license address, because that would change the voting address. So there are still mailings that are going out to people where their driver's license has been changed, so most likely they're not getting it.
Does it affect, when you say active voter, do we know, are those people who have voted?
Yes.
They have voted. So
Well, they're
forget
not-
all the mailing stuff.
they're not-
Have they gone to the polls and cast a vote?
I believe they're not, they're ones that have not had their ballots returned, correct?
An
Anne Marie,
active
would you
voter
like to tell
is,
us?
okay, I mean, not necessarily somebody who's gone to the polls to vote, because we have lots of different options for
Right,
voting.
of course, I meant.
But the difference between all registered and active is that there are different things that would trigger a voter being considered inactive, such as returned mail from a government office or notification that they've moved. We retain the voters' records usually for 6 years or through 2 federal election cycles. So active voters, active registered voters are voters who have demonstrated some sort of voter activity in the last 2 federal elections.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Bauer? Go ahead.
And I think that Commissioner Washington brought this up last time. I'm now looking at these costs, thinking it's certainly worth it if we reach people. But I have to tell a quick little story. So my birthday cards to my nephew in Colorado came back, and I called, and it has a birthday check in it and stuff. And he said, "Oh, Aunt Joni," he said, "I never go to my post office. He doesn't get mail much." Now, I can't imagine that So my point is, we really need to think through, and I'd love to hear from the public on this, how is the best way in 2024 to reach people with the information, with this information? I'm getting very concerned that we would spend a lot of money, these postcards would go out, and it's not going to really get us where we need to be. So, and initially I really supported this because I read mail. I love getting mail. So I read mail, but I don't know if other commissioners are having the same thoughts or have ideas on, are there other ways we could reach people that would have a better return, on the effort and especially the money?
Commissioner Boyd.
Personally, I don't think, I'd welcome someone's idea, but I don't have one myself. I think mail is the best way for a government entity to get in touch with people. I think that's what they expect. One of the questions I have is active voters. Okay, just been through a campaign, so I've done mailings, and so I'm a little familiar with it. I had a company help me with my mailers because they saved me money. For example, I had voters that I had identified. There might be 2 registered voters to a household. So they were able to save me money because I only mailed to one card to the household for the 2 voters. So my question is, do we know if we go with an active voter and we hire a company to do this for us, do we know what the actual number is? Because I think it's probably less than the $18,000 being quoted here.
Absolutely.
Or $16,000, excuse me.
Yeah. It was my understanding that this would be, if there were duplicate names to an address, it would only be 1 card going to that address.
And so my question is then, who does this mailing, and can we be assured that that will happen?
It's done through the clerk's office. There's a company that has gone through an RFP bid process that does all the mailing for the clerk's office, and it would be that same company, from what I understand.
I think there's a more cost-effective way to do this, and agreeing with Commissioner Boyd on this one, because I did mail to every absentee ballot voter, and it was a lot less, and it was less numbers too. So I believe in civic engagement, and the only way we're going to encourage people to participate is that if we reach all registered voters. And I say that because my nephew voted for the first time in this special election. So would he be counted in that last 2 federal elections? No, so that would be unfair.
Emery?
He would be considered an active voter. It's just, that's kind of generally the metric. So you're not inactive if you don't vote in local elections. But you would need to at least vote in the federals generally to be considered an active voter. But you're an active voter if you voted May 7th, 2024. But just because you didn't vote May 7th doesn't mean you're not an active voter. Does that help clarify that?
That does clarify, but my concern is, though, we are trying to encourage people to become involved. And I think if we exclude people, maybe they didn't want to vote before, and now they're encouraged to vote. They want to have a voice. So are we saying that they don't count because perhaps they didn't vote in the last couple of elections? Because I know some people who were on the ballot didn't vote in the last couple of elections, and they were on the ballot and endorsed.
Commissioner Washington?
Thank you, Chair Jeffries. As I've been listening to this, I had a concern about the cost of doing this when we were talking about sending 3 and 4. I mean, we're looking at almost $100,000 there. If we're going to do 1, I would support, as with Commissioner Simon, I would like it to go to all households that have a registered voter. Who are we to determine whether or not they want to vote? And I have a real problem with that. So if we're going to do it and we're talking about maybe 2,000 more, I would lessen the number of times we send things out rather than disenfranchise some voters. Having said that, I think we also need to look at social media, maybe radio spots, something like that that's not quite so costly. Mail is a good avenue, but it's not the only avenue.
Commissioner Dow?
Thank you. A couple of things. I think when we look at the number here for the full saturation, that's 30,000 more. And although they are not all registered voters, we heard loudly from the community that part of the problem was people weren't informed of this process. And to me, spending an additional potentially 1,000 or 2,000 to have 30,000 more mailers go out, that's a no-brainer. I think this is an education piece as well as, and maybe we have people who are not registered voters, and this is the reason they become a registered voter, right? So this is a small investment to reach a broader scope of our community. I think, so to me, I would do the full saturation. I think that makes sense. To Commissioner Boyd's point, or maybe it was Bauer, I'm sorry, it was yours, Bauer, for additional ways to communicate. Washington, you said this a little bit, but we've got publications like the City Pulse. Running a copy of this in there makes really good sense too. That's low cost. We can get things out. I think clearly social media, and we'll have our Facebook page, but even working with some of our organizations, local news organizations, having just come off of an event where I partner with them and they posted us. We are on the banner of their homepage. Anybody who went to a certain news source, that's what they saw for 2 weeks, right? There's ways to do this where people really we can pump this information out if we want to do this, and it's not that costly. Print is not the only way.
Emery?
I just want to clarify on the definition of voters. There is some language from Clerk Swope in this, but somebody who is registered who isn't active likely doesn't live at their address anymore, and we have to retain those records due to state law. It's not always the case, but just because, like, to only send to active voters, we know that those people are at their address. If they're not an active voter, but they are registered, it's likely that they don't live there because they surrendered their Michigan license and moved out of state. But to send to active versus all, I don't think would necessarily disenfranchise people. That's just the legal terminology in election law for what a voter's record is classified as when they move and haven't provided the clerk's office with that information, which tends not to be the priority for people moving.
And would you also clarify what saturation is? We have active, registered, all registered, and then we have saturation, which is something that Ben was.
That's defined in this message from Clerk Swope as well, just quoting that directly. This would go to every address by carrier route, regardless of having a registered voter, would also include businesses. Since postal routes don't follow city boundaries, there may be some people missed, or there may be some notification to people outside the city.
So in other words, it's going to go to that 1712 Herbert that we just heard about, with the people who were moved and the house is not kept up and we don't know if anybody's there, right?
I do not work for the post office or speak on behalf of them, but I think that your point is understood.
Commissioner Lopez?
Well, this may be a crazy idea, but is there any reason why we could not do like a get out the vote and lit drop and have kind of a volunteer corps or ask for volunteers to drop where there's people in that house and get away from what somebody said about homes being empty, nobody living in them, and we send them a. I know we need to counter steps, but is there any reason why we couldn't do that?
I think we could set up anything we'd want to. Again, time and money. That's what we're talking about. Vice Chair Simon?
No.
Oh, Commissioner Washington.
Thank you. We could beat this to death.
Yeah.
A few thousand people in a 114,000 person city. I don't care if somebody's not living at a house where a postcard is mailed, because that's not going to be the majority. Just my.
Commissioner Cowie? Oh, no, you're good? Okay. So there's a motion on the table. Does anybody want just, I don't think that in that motion there was an amount or a selection as to.
I'd like to amend that motion to adopt the full saturation of voters
Okay.
at the $19,510.23.
If we could take that up to 20,000, we'd like to round it up.
So moved to 20,000.
Okay, on the amendment.
That's the best avenue.
Thank you. On the amendment, are there any comments or questions?
Second.
Oh,
Second.
Sorry. Is there a second?
Second.
Vice Chair Simon seconded. On any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Opposed?
And it does pass with Commissioner Boyd voting no? No, who voted no? I'm sorry.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, who voted no? Was that?
I voted no on full saturation.
Okay.
I support mailing to all registered voters.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Chair Jeffries, I have a clarifying question.
Yes.
So we've approved the passage of the postcard with those amendments. We're still working on those community meeting logistics.
Yes.
Which ostensibly would be filled in on here. What do y'all want to see brought in front of you before the mailer goes out as those things get finalized?
I guess just you can send everybody a final copy of
Okay.
the mailer itself. I don't think we need it at a meeting. Okay. So, with that, that apparent that was an amendment?
That was a amendment.
Okay.
On the original.
Right. On the motion as amended, to approve the mailing of an all-saturation card, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Opposed?
It passes. The next item is the submission form that was in our packet. And I think, Commissioner Boyd, I think this is, what we were looking, or what you may have been referring to before. This is something I understand is going to be put on, when approved, will be put on our website for people to submit questions or comments to us regarding the charter. And everybody's had an opportunity to look at this. First of all, we would need a motion to approve this as a submission form that we'll put on our website. Is there a motion for that? Commissioner Lopez moves.
Second.
Commissioner Anderson supports, or seconds. Is there any comments on the submission form? Any questions? It's pretty straightforward.
I do have one question, and Emery, maybe you can help us with this. I want to ensure that there is not a character limit on the comment section. Is that correct? Okay. Character limit, so if somebody's in the middle of sending it, it cuts them off.
Yes, they can optionally put a topic that has the character limit, but then the comment section, which is required, is limitless.
Okay. Any other questions? On the motion to approve, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It passes. The next item on the agenda is dealing with our Facebook page and the cost to stream. As you know, at our last meeting, we approved our Facebook page and our rules. We asked that information be brought back to us in terms of what the cost was going to be. We've been given those numbers. It appears that there's a $500 streaming subscription for 6 months. Every 6 months, we're going to be putting out $500 for that, as I understand it. And then there's 2 pieces of equipment. I think it's a one-time cost of $700. So initially, we're looking at about $1,200 to get that up and running, and then every 6 months, an additional $500.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we voted on doing the Facebook. I think we just had conversation that we would find out. I don't think we actually took a vote.
I think we took a vote
We did take a
have a
vote on it?
Facebook. We didn't do anything with the streamline on Facebook
No, okay.
because we didn't have the costs associated with it. But we definitely voted on Facebook.
Yeah. So do you have any questions? Okay. Are you all set? Yeah. Okay. So I think what would be required here would be a motion just to adopt and accept the costs for the expenditure for our Facebook page. It's been moved
Second.
by Commissioner Boyd and supported by Commissioner Bauer. Are there any questions or comments?
Yes, just for clarity, this is not for the Facebook page, it's for stream.
Yes,
Subscription.
correct.
So,
Yes.
Right, and now my question was who was going to be, and I think we asked this before, administering it?
It would be the clerk's office.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously.
We'll move forward to the returned legal counsel RFP.
Hey, do we have the RFPs, the packets? We received, as you know, we went out for a request for proposal. It was posted in a number of different places. We received a total of 25 folks that actually went online to the Michigan Intergovernmental Trade Network, where all local units of governments put postings in terms of jobs and RFPs such as this. On that posting, there were 25 firms that requested a copy of the RFP, and there were also an additional 5 firms that contacted the city directly and requested a copy of the RFP. Out of those total 30, we only had 2 that responded and met the deadline. You have a copy of those 2 proposals, and you also have a cover letter that is to me from Brian Jackson in the clerk's office. These, because of the way that our ordinances are set up, the way our policy is, and the way that the RFP was drafted, these documents are to be considered confidential and are not to be made public until after a decision is made. So at this point, we need to pick a date and a time to do the interviews for both of these firms. And I suspect from that interview, we'll make a decision, and once that decision is made, then the RFPs will then be made public. The rationale for that is if, say, one party gets the RFP or the packet of the other party, then they'll have a leg up on that party, and we have to maintain the confidentiality to ensure that the bid process remains untainted. And so that's where we are. What we need to do is talk a little bit about setting a date. We can, if we're going to do this in the committee of the whole, which was the motion that was made and passed at our last session, we could look at setting up a committee of the whole meeting prior to our next, on the same day, but prior to our next commission meeting in 2 weeks. Or if you want to move quicker than that, next week we could pick a date and time and do that as well. I suspect we would want to have both firms have their representatives here in person when we do the interview. So those are some of the concerns that are out there. If anybody has any ideas on when they want to meet and what times, I think probably 30 to 45 minutes per interview would be a fair amount of time to get through these things. So go ahead, Commissioner Boyd.
I have a question. Are we obligated to interview these firms?
We can do, we don't have to bring them in, no. I don't know why you would not want to bring them in, but we don't have to. You can read the proposals and say, this is what I feel comfortable with. There's going to have to be a justification made as to why we select one firm over the other.
Right, of course.
You've got to articulate that. It should be in writing. So my advice would be to bring them in, treat them both the same, have similar questions, hear the responses, and then go from there. Commissioner Washington.
Since we really haven't moved very far in the process of doing anything with the charter, excuse me, I think it would be fine if we interviewed them at our next scheduled charter meeting.
Okay, you want to do it before the meeting?
Either way is fine with me,
Okay.
but I think we have a commissioner that it's difficult for them to get here before 6:30, but that would be up to the commission.
If we set, say, a time at 5 o'clock, 2 weeks from today, can people make it at 5 o'clock or there? Commissioner Lopez, can you?
Would the commission be opposed to meeting next week? Because it would be, I think, ideal if we had the interviews out of the way and then we could present our findings at our actual meeting, because you don't want to rush an interview with these individuals. This is very important work they're going to be doing. So to give them an hour or 30 minutes before our 6:30 meeting, I don't know if that's enough time or not, but I just really want to have thorough conversation about the people that we hire, the firm that we hire. So I'm willing to meet next week and the committee meeting on next Tuesday. So.
Commissioner Washington?
I would ask that we not do that. I am going out of town, and I scheduled it specifically so I wouldn't miss a commission meeting.
Commissioner Cowie?
Before we set a time to meet with them, are we sure they can meet within that a 2-week frame? With them being business, I would think that we should maybe work the 30th. Or if they can meet in that 2 weeks, fine. But I would say that I think we meet July 30th. We have a third meeting set up. That way, that gives them enough time to get their well, they should have their presentation ready. But that way, gives us also the schedule to get off work early or what have you. I know you have prior engagement before 6.
Well, no, okay.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yes. No, I would hope that we give them enough time, or give us enough time with them.
Okay.
So that to know, make a decision that's informed. I can move my schedule like everybody else. I just need to know the date. We could even have a special meeting just for this, which would give us more, focus.
So we could do it on an off Tuesday then, say the Tuesday between our 2 meetings. And just schedule this as a special meeting for this purpose only. So if we're looking at the 9th maybe is out, 16th is our next meeting, the 23rd, July 23rd, does that work for everybody? Okay, and 5 o'clock, does that work?
My question, is that enough time?
Yeah, that's enough time. They're ready to go. Yes. But you mean enough time for them to prepare? Is that what you're saying? Or, yeah, they're ready. They better be ready. Okay, so is there a motion to set a special meeting for July 23rd at 5 o'clock for the purpose of interviewing the law firm's RFP? Okay, there's a motion. Is there support?
Second.
It's been seconded by Vice Chair. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes.
With that out of the way, we'll move on to new business, starting with rules amendment for public comment.
Vice Chair Simons.
Yes, pursuant to paragraph 7 of the Commission's Rule of Procedure, proper notice was served to the Commission to the following language. Charter Commission meetings will have 2 periods of public comment. During the first period, at the beginning of the meeting, comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. A second public comment period will take place at the end of the meeting. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes per speaker. For each section of public comment, an additional period of time shall be allowed by a vote of a majority of the members of the Commission present. Is there a motion to adopt this?
For the sake of discussion, I will support it.
Okay, is there, been moved and supported?
Is a motion to support?
Been moved by Commissioner Boyd, supported by Commissioner Cowie. Is there any discussion on the rule change? Commissioner Washington.
I won't be supporting it. I let you know that I won't be supporting it. I know this is a nod for the 5 minutes that I asked. But not only did I not think 3 minutes was enough, I certainly don't think 2 minutes is enough. And I think we could at least give folks the 3 minutes after the meeting. Also, this is how every other city board, commission, council, and everyone else does it. And maybe a minute doesn't mean much to some people sitting up here, but it certainly means something to the people that want to have a voice. And I also think that at some point, because this has come up more than once, this room is is equipped so we could actually have virtual participation. And I think that is absolutely something that we need to explore and consider when we are having our meetings, because the equipment's already here, it can already be done, and it would give people another access to be engaged and to give us comment if they are not able to come due to illness, disability, children at home, or whatever else. So I will not be supporting this.
Okay. Any other comments, Commissioner Anderson?
I agree with Jody. I would like to see the limit be up to 3 minutes for the end. It just keeps it consistent and just allows people an opportunity. Oh, you want me to make an amendment? Okay, so I move to make an amendment to increase the 2 minutes to 3 minutes.
To increase, I'm sorry?
The 2 minutes to 3 minutes at the end of the meeting.
Been moved and supported. On the amendment, are there any questions or comments?
Sorry.
Commissioner Washington.
I will support this with the extra minute I added on the end, and thank you for that amendment. But I also don't want us to give up on the discussion of virtual participation. I hope this isn't the end of the conversation on public comment.
Well, go ahead, Commissioner Anderson.
I was just wondering, Emery, could you check with Lansing Public Media to see what that would look like for us to do Zoom for these meetings as well? Thank you.
Well, we had, maybe I misunderstand, but we had checked into that, the ability to do that. The ability may be there to do it, but the Opens Meetings Act was, amended during COVID to permit it to happen. And then when COVID ended, they amended it back to can only be in person. So one of the questions we can ask the attorney, and again, we did reach out and ask that question whether we could do that or not, and we were told that we were prevented from the Open Meetings Act to doing that. Commissioner Washington.
We as commissioners cannot Zoom in. That does not mean that there cannot be engagement with the public.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Bauer.
Does the city council do virtual participation for their meetings? So it shouldn't be very difficult, should it?
It is configured for council to do virtual participation. Since it has been configured, nobody has used the option.
Okay. All right, anyway, we're off topic here a little bit. We'll bring this back. As to the amendment, or as to the amendment, any other comments or questions? Commissioner Boyd.
I am the person who brought this to our chair's attention 2 weeks ago in terms of changing the amount of time that the public had to speak to this commission. And as a result of Councilman Coast's letter, a compromise was put forth that we would have 3 minutes at the beginning, 2 minutes at the end, which came to a total of 5 minutes. So it increased the amount of time people had to speak to us or speak about issues. It addressed both the front end and the back end of the meeting. To be honest with you, and I don't want this to sound as callous as it might, but I don't care. I mean, I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to share your thoughts and feelings with this commission. And it was one of the first things that this commission had to deal with the first night we met, was how much time should there be in public comment? And I rethought it, and I thought, it really doesn't matter. It matters to you folks. And so I was responding to you. And then we have this compromise, and I said at the last meeting, I really hoped that you all would comment on it. What do you want? Do you want to be able to speak 5 minutes at the beginning and 2 minutes at the end, or 3 minutes at the end? One of the things that I would like is that your comments are focused on this charter and challenge and the mandate that this commission has, not to be talking about other things, because that's not why we're here. We are not.
Please, you're out of order.
I'm sorry, what? What?
Not you. They're out of order.
At any rate, I guess at this point, I'm not sure how I'm going to vote. I really wanted to hear from people in the audience about what you wanted, because I think this is about you. So there you are.
Commissioner Anderson?
I would just like to say, even though maybe they didn't say it today, they've been saying it since before we even started sitting here. At a variety of community meetings, direct community engagement, just one-on-one with a variety of citizens. People have said over and over again that they want to be engaged in this process. And I think that we're on meeting 3, we haven't even touched the actual charter yet. And as we do and things become more and more complex, it's gonna, people need time to be able to share their thoughts and their research and their ideas and their experiences. And so I just want to make sure that we allow them that time, even though they didn't address it today specifically, it still needs to be done.
Question's been called. On the motion to amend, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I'm sorry.
Point of clarification, can you tell me what we're voting on again, please?
The
Thank you.
motion to amend is to add at the end of the minute, or at the end of the meeting, amend it from 2 minutes to 3 minutes. So we'll have 3 in the beginning, 3 at the end. That's the amendment. Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Passes. Okay. Next.
Next up, we will be going to rules amendment for attendance.
Point of order, that was a vote on the motion, not on the,
Oh, I'm sorry.
on the amendment, not on the primary
On the motion
motion.
as amended, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Does pass.
Thank you, Emery. We'll be moving on to rules amendment for attendance and absences now.
I'll recognize Commissioner Anderson on this, please.
Do I need to move it first, or? Okay, so I am moving that I don't know how to phrase this, sorry, guys. That we adopt this proposal to amend the rules of procedure, specifically related to attendance and absences. I drafted this, I guess, does anybody second?
It's been moved by Commissioner Anderson. Is there support?
Support.
Commissioner Washington supports. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Anderson, for drafting this very thorough attendance policy. I would hope that all the commissioners are being held accountable for their attendance to do this work. What I'm concerned with, especially with the last-minute absence with proof, it's stated with illness or medical emergency that documented illness of the member or a family member requiring immediate attention. I believe, and I should be correct, I can be corrected, but this violates HIPAA. So I think maybe in this document that we need to actually have this reviewed by legal. Also, where you state that if you have 3 unexcused absences with a 12-month period, may be grounds for the commission to consider further action up to including removal from the commission. I don't believe the body has that authority to do that. According to the Michigan election law, the governor is the only one that has authority to remove a city officer with documentation and proof that there is misconduct. So, but I am not an expert on Michigan law. That's just what I read. So I think we should table this and move this for an opinion.
There's a motion to table. Is there any discussion? It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Commissioner Taylor.
Yeah, I just want to just thank you for this. So I think it came out of an email. There was some confusion about my absence last meeting, and I know, but I appreciate this being in writing, so that way this is a very clear communication. This was great, and I had the same question about a couple of these things. So that's
This would be a motion to table to obtain a legal opinion.
Legal opinion
Yes, to
also.
the- Okay.
And I would like to just say, if in agreement with the commissioners, that if you are going to be absent, that you email the chair and the vice chair. That way, there's, everybody sees it, and then if you don't get a confirmation, then call. But that way, two eyes, more than one eye is on it.
Well, for the record, I have sent the chair a note saying that I will not be at the July 30th meeting, which you had added to our calendar, but I won't be at that meeting until duly noted.
All right, on the motion to table, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it is tabled. And then as soon as we get our attorney, we'll get an opinion. Okay.
Moving on to the last item under new business, we are on to Article 1, Overview and Priorities.
Well, we're finally getting to the charter, so yay. What we've got in front of you, and what we approved last week, was an article discussion plan that basically sets forth that each meeting from now until, I believe it's October 22nd, at each one of those meetings, we'll be taking up a separate article within the charter. There are 9 articles that are made up of 42 chapters, and within those chapters is 168 sections. And so what we will do today is start at Article 1, which is just the general overview of definitions and what the name of the city is and the boundaries and all that stuff. We do have on the screen the actual document and what we will be looking at and reviewing, and so the public can see and understand what it is that we're doing, and hopefully we'll get some comments off of this review as we move forward. We're going to be doing this review still at the same time that we're doing our community engagement. The idea is that at the end of our overview, hopefully this will lead us into some discussions about issues that various commissioners may have as it relates to the charter, and at the same time through the community engagement we'll be getting feedback from you folks, and at the end of October we will then begin the actual drafting, where we'll circle back and start over, going through each article line by line and doing the drafting at that point. So with that, if we could get up the first slide, Chapter 1 under government. So in this, again, this is pretty basic. It talks about the establishment of the city of Lansing and the boundaries, that whatever the existing boundaries are at this point, they will continue to be the boundaries of the city. If anybody wants to look at changing the name, City of Lansing, the city of something else, this is it. Yeah, this is your opportunity to do that. Just kidding. So, does anybody have any questions or any concerns about those two sections or the chapter? Okay, chapter number 2, interpretation of the charter. This talks about the powers of the city. It references the Home Rule Cities Act, the Constitution, and identifies that as all of the powers that the city may have, and there may be other laws. It tells us that the charter has to be liberally construed in favor of the city. So when we're looking at that and trying to figure out what does it actually say, it gives a lot of leeway to the city in terms of that interpretation. Severability, if any of these chapters or sections are deemed invalid, it does not invalidate the rest of the charter. It talks about the articles, chapter, and section headings, so you can understand how the charter is put together. So that takes care of the sections 201 through 204. Does anybody have any questions or comments on those?
Yes,
or Vice Chair?
where it's listed as the definition for person, I would propose that it reads, person means a human being regarded as an individual, and artificial entities recognized as persons by state of law. There are many people in our community that don't identify as a man or woman. They're non-binary, so we're looking to have inclusive language.
This would be for the first 4 sections. That's further on.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right here. I jumped ahead. Okay, sorry.
Because the page that we have up
is
just reflects. So for those first 4
Sorry.
sections, does
I
anybody
apologize.
have any questions, comments? Okay. So we're not taking any motions.
Yeah, no
We're
motion.
just kind of going through, if you have concerns, like the vice chair just brought forward, that's something that we can note and then circle back to a little bit later. So the next page deals with sections 205, which are the definitions, and these run through an agency. What is an agency? Agency of the executive branch, a board, an elector, a franchise. And as you go throughout the charter, these terms are present and are meant to go back and look at what does this actually mean, who does it actually apply to, how does this actually work. So these definitions, the definition section is pretty important, and we got to keep in mind that this was done over 40 years ago. So the technology has changed, a lot of things have changed that we need to be looking at this in light of today and how we operate, and either amend these or update them, I think is more appropriate as we move forward. So again, the next page talks about inquiry. What is a law? The members elect, the members present, the members serving. What does all that mean? There are different voting requirements as you go throughout the charter and how to resolve things. There's on that second page or the first page of 205 talks about an officer, what an officer is. The mayor did present 2 suggestions to us, and he did reference that as he didn't feel that the members of boards and commissions should be included under the section of officers. So those comments will be put into the record, and we can circle back and talk about that when we get to the actual drafting. And then the next page is, I believe, what the vice chair was referencing. It talks about an ordinance, then it talks about what a person is. And again, this is clearly outdated, and is something that we will definitely be looking at as we go. Talks about publishing. How do you publish something? There's a lot of times we have to put something in the paper, and to publish it, that is what we're talking about.
I think on that, I had a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cowie.
And again, we're just talking about picking ideas around.
Yes.
One of the things is that I think that we should add social media. Sorry. That on that publishing, it says official bulletin boards, which very few places still have them. We should add social media to the official publishing for the city on that.
And that's a good point. And what we could do is we're going to have to review the Home Rule City Act to see if that's permissible in terms of the actual publishing. They're very strict about what the specific requirements are to give notice and to publish. If you're going to adopt an ordinance, you have to publish it. And so yes, we'll definitely take a look at that and can update that. Commissioner Bauer?
Right, and just to clarify, so this definition of publish is different than what? This strictly talks about what is required to put in newspapers, because I know that is a huge issue, that the legislature, several times, they wanted that changed so that things didn't have to be published to save money for government. So that's one we might want to just star, to really take a look at where we are with state law, kind of if this has changed since, anything has changed since the charter was written.
Good point. Anybody else? Okay.
Brian, Chair, Lori's comment about the definition of person, that's reflected here then?
Yes,
Okay, thank
that's
you.
been noted. And Emery, you're taking notes? Got it. Okay, yep. So that takes care of that chapter 2. So does anybody have any further comments on chapter 2? All right, chapter 3 writes the public. City records are to be public. Non-discrimination and civil rights. I know that a lot of us have talked about during the campaign, really having to update that. I would recommend that we look at our human rights ordinance that the city passed to make sure we include that language. And there's been some other executive orders that the governor's put out and laws that have just changed that deal with this issue. Commissioner Dowd.
Yeah, I would make a recommendation as we get into that piece of that we whether we hire an external firm that works with a DEI inclusion language to go through our entire document and just make that steadfast. I think an attorney's going to look at to make sure we are following the legal things that need to happen, but it wouldn't hurt to have somebody go through and make sure everything is consistent and precise within a DEI lens.
Well, and then that's the question we can ask our attorneys, if they're qualified to do that. Vice Chair.
Just to piggyback on what he was saying, it's very important that we are in alignment with state and federal law, especially with the governor's mandate with the Elliott-Larsen Act as well, to include, also take out language. We no longer say handicap. And to speak about DEI, I've been a DEI practitioner for the last 10 years. I'm not saying that I know everything, but I'm pretty well versed in the area. So if that saves us any money, I'll be happy to lend my skill set to that. But I do have language proposed for that area.
I was going to
Commissioner Cowie.
No, the same thing. Also looking at the Title VII, federal Title VII.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's up there. So.
Any other comments? Okay, that takes care of Chapter 3. Anybody have any other comments on Chapter 3? Okay. Chapter 4, governmental coordination. I mean, this area addresses the city's relationship with its neighbors, what it can and can't do. It's fairly liberal in the sense that it encourages actually reaching out to other localities to enter into intergovernmental cooperative agreements. I think, this is something that we need to pay attention to. It's kind of the wave of the future in terms of how we're going to provide services, particularly with the costs involved in those. So that's something that we want to pay attention to. That is pretty much what it addresses as I see it. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Vice Chair side.
Under the penalties for violation of the charter, we may want.
Just a sec. We got to get
Oh,
to chapter.
I keep going.
She's really trying to push us,
No, I'm just like, hey.
she's got to get somewhere, I think.
No, I'm not in a rush, but
Anything on Chapter 4?
sorry.
All right. Chapter 5, Vice Chair.
Okay, for penalties for violation of charter, obviously this was, penalties were created in 1978. We may want to revisit that,
Yep.
the dollar amount or what days for imprisonment, not to exceed.
Yeah, $500 is typically the maximum that a municipality could push for a misdemeanor. And then the 90 days was also the cap for the jail time, although we could make it 93. So that's something that you can do if you want. But we can take a look at that, update it.
I had a question about that too on the penalties. Is this standard for other entities of government? So if this penalty is reflective of all the other entities of
We could check that.
government here, is it standard?
I believe it is, but we'll definitely check it out. Yeah. Yep. Any other comments? All right, that takes care of Article 1. Very good.
All right, we'll move forward to commissioner remarks.
Are there any Commissioner Dow?
We kind of took this off of through a conversation, but I want to revisit and I want to make sure that we've got space to talk about the virtual participation. So we brought that up in the middle of another topic, but I do think we've heard quite a bit of feedback on that, and I want to make sure I feel good tonight when we walk out of here that there's movement on where that goes next, whether we're discovering what we can do, and then at least be able to give an update to the community on when they should hear back or have a proposal from us on how they participate.
Okay. Can do. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we are adjourned. Right? No?
For the public.
Oh, okay. Public comment. I thought we had to lay him over for a week.
So we'll move on to our second public comment section. Since I don't have any sheets, please say your name and address if you want to come up here and speak.
My name is Paula Simon. I live at 23. I live at I live at 2345 Kensington Road, Lansing, Michigan. I wanted to touch base on what Commissioner Lopez said about the postcard. I thought that it was an excellent idea. The commissioners going out handing out the postcards. It's a face-to-face. I've worked with A. Philip Randolph, the Lansing chapter. I was the president at one time. And leafleting, you contact people. The other part is the public comment. I think that 3 minutes at the end is good because a lot of people from being involved in politics have no idea about this charter. So now that the charter is going to be looked at, they now have to look at it. So the questions that they're going to be asking they're going to have to figure out how to answer the questions because the charter is very complicated for an average citizen. So that's my comment.
Thank you.
I'm Nicholas Zandy, and I am the president of the Old Everett neighborhood. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, I want to speak directly about someone saying something that no neighborhood told you anything about about meeting within our neighborhoods. As a neighborhood leader myself, who is from the 2nd Ward, the Old Everett neighborhood is basically the largest neighborhood in the 2nd Ward. I am perfectly willing to let you guys host a meeting within our neighborhood if we can get enough grants to get a bigger space to accommodate that. And I believe that Scott Woods should be available for it since they're currently active. And if the rumor is right and that Forest View actually does come back from what I've heard from Garza, maybe they might be willing to do it again if they get a big enough space. Again, lots of neighborhoods, I'm sure, are perfectly willing to do it if they're a fully active neighborhood association, and I encourage them to come back. And also, you guys looked at the first chapter on government, or section, I think. I think in a few sections, you're going to be going over to elected officers. And just FYI, everything from the way the wards are in the city of Lansing, as well as whether or not a certain executive governing person, elected officer, is elected or not, all those are in that section. And that can be all amended in one go. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, in fact. So you can basically, and again, I absolutely believe we should have an elected city attorney, increase the number of wards from those that we have now, and get rid of the at-large because they're completely unrepresentative of the entire city of Lansing. I mean, other cities have gotten rid of their at-large positions. Sometimes the people voted for it or the feds had to force their hand on it. Like in North Charleston, for example, the Department of Justice determined that the at-large positions were inherently racist and that the city council had to completely redo how this council was positioned and get rid of the at-large and replace them with wards. The same thing can be done in the city of Lansing, but now the people have voted on it, and you've got to change that. Same thing goes with a city attorney. You have every right to determine whether or not the city attorney is elected. I've watched the first meeting and I've found nothing that suggests that a city attorney has to be appointed or elected. You can make the city attorney elected. Use that option once you get to that section of elected officers. That's all I shall say, and I'll yield the last few seconds of my time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this time?
I specifically remember talking about the time, and just a little bit ago, I literally said it. I heard like 2 or 3 commissioners say no one specifically talked about it. I specifically talked about it, and so if that's the kind of attention you're going to pay attention to us, we're lost.
Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to mention that that the reason I had spoken about zoning and economic development and so forth is in fact because it is spoken to within the charter. And so I have been reading it. That's mainly what I wanted you to know, is that I have been interested enough to get into it, and it's an imposing document. I mean, just the concept of getting into a charter, it's not something I've done before. So I feel good about being engaged in some fashion. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Boy, am I glad you guys gave us this second 3 minutes, because that's when I want to speak, is after I hear things being said at these meetings. So I appreciate that consideration and moving it to 3 minutes. Thank you for that, Commissioner Anderson. Most recently, I've been doing this city trail a lot lately, going all the way out to East Lansing, went all the way north today, went to Crago Park, did some fishing. Kind of cleared my mind a little bit. I also recognize I take my morning walks through the Capitol Loop out here in the back, right? Where if you go from the Federal Building and you follow like the yellow lines all the way around the Capitol, it's 1 mile exactly. So from like the steps of the Federal Building all around the Capitol and then back is 1 mile. So I take my morning walk every day to that beat. And then I also noticed that if you go around the Capitol on the south side and you break like the Capitol wall and come around it, it's a totally different view than if you go on the north side. I took a picture of that the other day and posted it. Told Erica to do the same thing when you walk around there, take a look at how that looks, because it's beautiful. The Capitol lawn is beautiful. I actually caught them mowing the lawn the other day, which I thought it was like a ghost that does that, because the lawn is so immaculate. It's probably the most beautiful lawn in the city of Lansing, right? It's the Capitol lawn. And I caught them mowing it the other day. I think they probably waste a lot of gas, put a lot of fumes in the air, but oh well, because I appreciate laying on it and grounding my feet in it, all that type of stuff. City Trail over off of back Washington maybe, there's a tree down over top of the trail that's still been there for about, I don't know, 3 days now. Pretty dangerous. And actually me and my wife came back through there, and 10 minutes later I looked at the River Trail Facebook page and they said it had just fell. Like, it could have been us, right? But God would never do that to me. Got too much work to do left. But outside of that, it's been pretty cool. Like, for the last couple of days, it's been cooler. My air conditioning works pretty well, but we've been able to keep the windows open at night, run a fan. I appreciate my home, my life, my people. Appreciate Commissioner Anderson. She knows I love her. Commissioner Washington, thank you. Vice Chair Simon. So it's been a wonderful time in the city. I was having a conversation the other day, and I was telling somebody we're like this close to being like the perfect little city. And when you go downtown, no matter what time of day it is, it's pretty vacant. I don't know why we keep trying to do all this economic development down there, but it is vacant. And it almost reminds you of like, what's the movie? Me, Myself, and Irene. I remember there was like a scene when he was downtown in like the square in New Jersey, wherever that is, wherever he was at. And it's just like really serene, kind of beautiful, like, or like, I don't know. I'm kind of trying to think of the movie it was. It was an Eddie Murphy movie when they was down, Norbit. Remember Norbit and they had the big dance thing out there in the park? Our city is like that. It's a beautiful city. You guys make sure you take your time and hang out in it. That's just to let you know. I'll talk about whatever the hell I want to down here.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? And if you did speak, if you could fill out a form with Kashava over there really quickly for us, we'd appreciate it.
Hello, everybody. Erica Lynn, lifelong Lansing resident, and I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. A big thing for me is the conversation about accessibility. And as you can see, I have a minor injury. I wasn't able to attend in person 2 weeks ago because of that very reason. Would have liked to hobble down here, but I just couldn't that day. And it would have been really nice to attend online and be able to speak, public comment. So I want to highlight the need for that. Sometimes it may seem arbitrary in conversation, and even if 0 persons ever, take heed of that or utilize that resource, just the fact that it's available says a lot, because no one ever knows if they're going to need to take that opportunity until they do. The other thing I would advise on that is don't make it as oppressive as the city council's is. Part of the reason I was a part of the big push, the original push for accessibility for the city council meetings, to have those two-way accessible, what I never asked for, we never asked for, was for them to ask us to 4 hours in advance say that we want to do public comment. Folks have day jobs, night jobs, weekend jobs, volunteering, run nonprofits, host podcasts, are involved in the community, go to a lot of meetings, go to neighborhood meetings, have children, family. It's really difficult to know what your day looks like. It's difficult to know whether you are or aren't. You can have all intentions on planning on attending that meeting in person, and then you can't, and you've now missed the window to submit your form 4 hours in advance to let them know that you want to speak. The county commissioners don't do that. East Lansing don't do that. You literally can just pop on Zoom and just, talk. So that's the way to go when you're talking about accessibility. When we're talking about the minutes, it's disappointing when I hear discussion about things like that, because I can always tell who has been on this side and who hasn't. I can tell what may have been listened to and what hadn't. I have a unique perspective. I was on the trail with you all. So I got to go to all of the meetings. I got to talk to people. I got to listen to folks. And I heard that was quite often how you all communicated with the public, with the community, was extremely important. It was probably top-notch important. So you're going to have to sit through some folks that may not know exactly what they're talking about in relation to the commissioner. And that's okay, because that is your role, that is your duties as commissioners to educate the public. I will support you in doing that as well. We try to do that as best as we can. But again, when you're talking about educating the public and getting public opinion, work your way back. What is your actual goal? If your actual goal, because you can't keep just saying it. You can't keep saying we want public opinion. We want to hear from the public, we want to hear from the public. But then in the same breath, you want to control how you hear from the public, how long you hear from the public, and what you hear from the public. That's where you're going to miss the public. There's enough people in Lansing that feel disenfranchised enough, right? It's very intimidating for folks to come up here. So if you're going to say things to chastise folks because they come up here and talk about something that's irrelevant, they may never come back again. And then their experience is going to make folks out there not want to come back as well. And don't do that. Folks, we may let us handle it. Let us handle our people, right? Let us handle the community. We'll say, hey, take them aside like, Councilmember Cost did. So again, being oppressive is never the way to go. We'll get more once we finally get into the charter. But I would just say, if you're wanting public input, think about your actual goal and work backwards from that and take it from what the public actually wants.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Ryan Cost, East Side. I had wrote a letter a few weeks ago as an East Side resident, and apparently some folks didn't read it. It talks about the online commenting, people being able to zoom in and give public comment. That is legal. They absolutely can. If you had read the letter, you would have known that I'm going to take a step back and use my role as city council, that I know for a fact we use it in this room every week, and we have had one person call in, so it does work, and it is legal. I would have assumed when I wrote the letter that had it in there, I wouldn't have put something in there that I wasn't sure if you could do. So I would hope moving forward that when citizens send letters that they're read, because it sounds like some folks did not read the letters, and I appreciate the ones that did, because I did get responses. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I keep hearing references about the the commission's website. And so I looked at the commission's website. I didn't see anybody's picture. I didn't see anybody's biography. 3 sentences or not. And when I clicked on your names, I got your email addresses, and that's all. So I'm the one who found my way to your website. It's not very intuitive. 1, 2, 3, 3. Where did that come from? Why is it there? That doesn't seem to need to be part of a website, but that's what it is. It's got all the records, all the minutes, all that stuff, all the packets. But what if I want to know about each of you? What if I want to know about your background, your experience? I mean, we got people here who know about DIE. And yet we're going to hire an attorney? Well, and when I hear what the city clerk tells us, the money that's been spent, are they counting the $150 per meeting of this per member? That's going to add up quite a bit too, you know. So I just hope that the city clerk is being completely honest about that. And if you're going to say that you're going to put up your pictures and you have to put up a biography, please do so, or ask them for a charter commission website that makes more sense instead of periods and dashes and slashes and hyphens. It's not very accessible. It's not easy to remember. And if I'm wrong, tell me.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this time?
Good evening, Jay West, 3906 Stillwell. I guess I have a lot to say. So I know Nicholas Zandy had commented on the at-large members and how it could be racist. 2 of the at-large members are minorities, so not attacking his comment, but keep that in mind when you guys talk about that subject, the at-large positions. I think I kind of find the way they are, but you guys will make that decision. One pointer, I received all you guys' literature in the mail. I interviewed most of you guys in a few of your meetings prior to being elected. Congratulations on those that were elected. Not an attack, but I think you guys should share each other's literature and know what each other's background is. I know what all your backgrounds, Mohammed, GM, Union, Lori, DEI, Sparrow. I can go on, but I know what you guys' background is because I spoke to you and I read your literature, so I think you guys should share a little bit more prior to the meetings to know each other's background. Not an attack, just a suggestion. Let me see. Thank you, Lori, again, for bringing up the language being updated. I do think that needs to be done. And there was another comment about the city attorney being elected rather than appointed. Again, not an attack, but an elected position would be a popularity contest, not necessarily the best city attorney. If we had a appointed attorney, more than likely they would go through an interview process and they would pick the best candidate instead of the more popular candidate. So I think that direction might not be the way for Lansing. But again, we elected you guys, and I'm sure you guys make the best decision. So. I am the president of Churchill Down neighborhood, so I will be seeing you guys on August 20th. You guys did reach out to our neighborhood, and we did make that happen. Emery, thank you. I heard your voice on the phone. Now I can actually put a face to it. So I'm excited to see what you guys do with the charter. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Last call for public comment. Seeing none, Chair.
For free. But then the real question is, what do we do with them, right? Because
and that really is the core problem of education